All right, welcome to this Stampscapes lab stamp sketch finishing video, I guess. And that is this one desert kind of wash type of scenario with a little gold panner right there. Let's see what we can do with this. Okay, so I want to utilize some of my three-dimensional media here, which are these metallic tumbled glass. What are they called? Glass? I don't know. They're called glass shards or something like that. Crushed glass, I think it was. Okay, so these are not sharp. They're like tumbled. Okay, so they're not like taking like a bottle outside and just breaking it and painting it or something like that. They would never sell that for crafting goods. But someone asked me about that once, which is a good question. But let's see what we can do with this. Okay, so the thing that I've found when using this type of or these types of materials like that is you have to kind of incorporate them in from a textural standpoint. You want them to stand out because they're three-dimensional, but you don't want them to stand out so much that it's kind of an obtrusive type of like an alien artifact, like sticking out of this so much. And I'm not talking about like alien from outer space or something like that, but just something that just doesn't fit from a textural standpoint. It stands out too much. Okay. So from a visual standpoint, things like these textures in here, I think will help in the utilization of that type of substance. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to lay down some tones in here that I think will be related or will relate to those gold pieces a little bit better than I don't know, let's say going with a cool tone scene or something like that. That warm toned gold should incorporate in with these kind of sandy colors, orangish textures, things like that. Okay, so that being said, when I'm going to color this, I'm also going to be lighting it at the same time. So I don't want to just color, okay? Now, oftentimes people are confused as to how to light something, okay? And that's because they're used to doing whole areas. In scenic stamping like this, I mean, there are other types of scenic stamping where you might have a lot of imagery that are outlines where you can just kind of fill in the area, type of, coloring. All right. And that's a cool way to do it too. But in my type of, stamp designing and stamp usage, I don't have a lot of outlines in designs. Okay, so we have these open spaces like this. We have all these different designs that are incorporated in with one another to hopefully make kind of a seamless scene. Okay, and in order to create lighting, what I'm doing is I'm retaining lighter areas. Okay, so I'm retaining, which means I'm just retaining some of the white of the paper in this case. So I'm not just coloring everything. I'm kind of streaking in these colors like this. I'm really smearing a lot of my black ink that's I thought would be completely dry, but you can see it's really kind of putting it back into solution right here. But, speaking of lighting, what I'm doing is I'm adding shadow into this, okay? And by the retention of these lighter areas like that, we are thus defining light through the use of shadow. So it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to do than a lot of people think. It's like they think that's really hard to do because they're used to coloring everything completely, usually. Okay, this is sand right here. Let's color this with sand. a color that's, maybe called sand or something like that, or a color that would be indicative of a sandy color, okay? But no, you just don't do everything completely. Here's an antique linen. It's a similar color, and I'm going to add that in there. I like to blend in a lot of different kind of similar tones in order to create my tonal variations and color richness. Okay, you see that one right there? See, it's a little bit warmer of a tone than the previous color, but they're working in conjunction with one another because they're being blended together in this case. Okay, I'm putting some up in the mountains right here. Now you don't have to do this with, in this case, this is dye-based inks on glossy cardstock. You can do this with, you can blend your tones with colored pencils or pastels. You can do if you like using alcohol inks, you can do that. You can do multimedia where you're doing both. Or multiple types of media just built up on top of one another. You just have to be aware of different media surface combinations or media and media combinations and know which ones to add first if you're going to do multimedia. In some cases, it doesn't matter which one you use first, but if I lay down a bunch of alcohol inks on here, it's going to go on the surface, and then if I try to add like a water-based, dye-based ink over the top of it, it probably won't adhere, or won't, the dye-based inks won't really transfer as well onto a layer of alcohol that's already been laid down. Okay, so in this case, I think I want to use alcohol and inks on here, but I'm going to lay down the water-based inks first. It's like if you're going with like a oil-based paints or something like that, and you're painting your house. If you have a water-based paint and then you've already had a oil-based paint underneath it, you probably have to remove the oil-based. You have to add some sort of a primer over the top of the oil-based paints in order to paint a water-based paint, over the top. Otherwise, it's just going to peel right off, right? Same type of thing with crafting media. You just have to be kind of aware of what will or what sequence you'll want to add things in, in what order. All right, so see this right here? So there's my lighting coming right down there. And see this right here? I'm kind of moving towards this type of coloring right here, more than, a white piece of paper, okay? Now, I'm not sure. Let me see. Let me go with this brown here. I really like this Marvy brown. I've been just basically going with light tones so far. This one's kind of more of a medium. It's a little bit of a richer, warmer brown, like that. You have a little minor right there. I'm kind of leaving them somewhat illuminated. It's just not going to be left bare. I'm just not going to, I don't want brown over that, that minor right there. So I'm just leaving it as is. And then I'll come and color these areas later. Okay, I have this Tombow pen right here. Doesn't have the color name on there. Well, it's number 992, but it's a little greenish tinge to it. And I thought, I haven't really colored with dye-based markers in a long time. So I thought, let's give this a try. This is like a really old pen, but on the other hand, it's like brand new because I don't think I've ever used it before. It's probably 20 or 30 years old. Kind of adding some shading in here, a little bit more detailed. It's a fairly light tone. It's a little bit of a greenish gray, I guess. I'm kind of using it more as like just another, slightly darker value. I'm not using it really just for the actual color because I'm coloring over other colors, and this is dye-based inks are transparent, so the colors underneath are, influencing, what it looks like. Okay, something like that. Let's go into, here's a little bit of a, this is kind of like the color of this antique linen here, but in pen form I can get, in a much more specific area. Let's go into some of these mountains in the distance. Mountains in the distance, when you get real distant mountains, I mean, they could be, fairly dark, but I don't want it to kind of compete with this area down here. See, if I make it really heavy up there, I don't think this character is going to stand out as much. In fact, I'm going to add a little base layer of this color on our old miner right here. I don't want them to be like that brown color. I'll add in some other tones to it. But if I don't add kind of like a color that's, utilized over a larger area or a similar color, it doesn't have to be that specific one. Sometimes they can look kind of unrelated, and then we want them to be, kind of more visually incorporated in with the scene, like they're a part of it or a part of that world. All right. A little bit more of a brownish tinge. Okay. Kind of hitting my shadow areas a little bit more. And there are certain things that I'll do on here that maybe I wouldn't normally do, but just with the fact that I'm going to be using the the crushed glass on here, I might kind of make some, I don't know, some shadows in here a little bit more extreme. We'll see. I don't really have a super specific kind of strategy in mind. Here's some gray right here for my mountains. Okay, and then we'll bring some of that gray into my shadows. It kind of dulls things down a little bit in terms of the color intensity when you add that kind of gray, or gray is a version of black, so it's like a tint here. I don't see too much of a change because this gray is like lighter than some of these browns that are already down here, but it can kind of mute it a little bit. Just in terms of the hotness, I don't want it like super bright in there. All right, let's see here. I do think I want that background mountain to be a little bit more of a, kind of a warm-ish tinge as I'm doing some of these scenes in these, I don't know, kind of southwestern, types of scenarios like this. It has occurred to me, I might need some other colors. There are certain colors that I just don't use too much. Or haven't used too much until now. I think I could probably use some. All right, so let's put this little miner in a little bit of a kind of a bluish shirt, I think. Maybe he's wearing some like denim or something like that, so I'll put him in a little bit of a bluish, tone clothes here. Ooh, that was really, really dark. Yeah, maybe not that dark. I can blend it out, but I don't want to be blending out something like too extreme. That's pretty dark too, but I think it's a little bit less so. Yeah, something like that, Sam. Coloring his boots. All right, so let's see. That's a pretty light blue right there. Let me see if I have an even lighter one. There's a couple really light ones. This one's like barely, lighter than white. So let's put this in this kind of water area. After all he is doing a little bit of gold panning, so I'm putting some of this down in these lighter areas just to give it a little bit of a bluish tinge, like maybe there's like a little trickle of kind of water running through here. So that's kind of an example of some cool amongst warm. Let's go with a little bit more. Is this that? I think this is a little bit darker, but my pen is kind of dry, so it's giving me a little bit of a lighter tinge. That works pretty good. Drier, in many cases, does not equate to better, but in this case, where I wanted just kind of a lighter blue, I think that works really good. But see, that's an example of kind of a cool in warm type of scenario. It just makes everything look, it makes it look more full in terms of, in this case, a temperature scheme within your scene. Okay. So always good to, it's always kind of good to kind of expand on the ranges, in terms of kind of visual vocabulary of a piece. Now, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have like real minimal areas, but I'm just talking about just in terms of overall potential visual richness. And visual richness comes from kind of the range of, the breakdown of things like color. So you have value, how dark something is, how light something is, relative. The intensity, and that's bright to dull, okay, which is different than light to dark. Like a pastel is a dull version. A pastel blue is a dull version of a much brighter blue, because it has white added to it. Like pink, it's usually a lighter version of a. Well, there's very intense pinks too, but if you take a red and you add white to it, it's going to be like a pinkish version of red, more pastel. So, and then you have temperature, warm and cool. Okay. All right, so adding just a little bit more of this gray, I'm kind of seeing how things are going, and then I'm just kind of making my assessments of it. It was like, there's a little bit too much brownish, direct, straight brown, so I'm going over and kind of blending in a little bit more gray over the top of it, knocking it down, and kind of deepening some shadows at the same time, where the gray is a little bit darker than what's already down here. Okay, so that is that. I think what I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to go into my piece here. And I think let's kind of expand on the textural range down here too, because I'm going to be adding in some of those little gold Uh, in this case, they're going to represent, I guess, gold nuggets. But let's make it a little bit more textural down in this area. Basically in the areas where I'm going to be adding some of those pieces. So, being that I can see these right now, see, if you lay one of these down, there's dark and light areas on here. So see, if I just add it right down here, I think it might stand out a little bit. So I'm going to go in. Now see, I have a lot of alcohol inks down here. So I'm going in with my StaysOn ink for these tiny rock impressions, as opposed to what I initially stamped those tiny rocks in. See, there's already those rocks in here, but these, I can't stamp these out in dye-based inks anymore because I already have a lot of alcohol ink that's, kind of slathered onto this paper, and, dyes aren't going to stick to, water-based aren't going to stick to, alcohol. I mean, you might get it to stain it a little bit, you know what I mean? But it's just not going to be, I'm not going to be able to get like that darkness of black in a dye-based ink over the top of, a bunch of dye inks. I mean, alcohol inks. Okay, so let's see here. Up in the sky, I'm going to give that area, I thought about going with a little bit of blue up there. Well, let's try it here. I don't want to get a bunch of smudgy blue. Well, if it gets a little bit, if I pull a little bit of black into it, it'll be okay. I don't want it too gray, from smearing. I don't know, like these saguaro cactus or something like that. Okay, so let's see how this goes. Okay, maybe I'll dab it on here instead of streaking, less chance of it kind of dragging and smearing my imagery. And that looks pretty good. I don't know if you can see this at all. It's the color blue that I just use is like a super, super light blue. And it's the dye-based ink blue. So let's go in and add a little bit more. Now this is a really bright blue here with the Caribbean blue, so I'm just going to dab on a little bit of it like this. You can see it's a little bit more intense. And then I'll try to blend some of this in, kind of in a little bit of a vignette form. I'm just going to go right here on the side. It's just to get a little bit of color up into that sky. I'm not trying to do the whole thing again. I'm kind of coloring for lighting. In this case, the lighting is kind of coming from a little bit on the horizon like that. I mean, I think that's all I'll do on there. I'm not going to go too much. But for the most part, it's kind of darker on the edges, right, and lighter in the middle. But you do the same thing in all the different areas. You kind of transition your tones around. Let's see, let's bring a little bit of this blue down into this area right around in here. See this cactus right here? I just noticed I didn't bring that all the way down to that rock. I'm just going to fill that in. This is the way you do it right here. You just grab a little black pen or something like that and just fill in right here. That was a big area right there that I kind of missed with that. All right, so you have those cacti in the background. No problem. You can do that easily, with scenic stamping. If it's a, dark kind of image. This one was a small dark image, but no big deal. All right, so we have our textures down here. I'm looking at the piece, kind of scouting it. Trying to decide if there's anything else I want to do on here. I wish I had a little bit of a darker gray alcohol ink pen than this one right here. Like a 70% gray might be good. I'm not sure. Um, and that's because I might be able to incorporate a little bit more shading into some of these areas without going like all the way to black. Okay, but okay, here, okay, so we texturize this area down here with a dark object, which are those little rocks, okay? But I'm going to add in some texturing with this paint pen now. And just kind of get a little bit more texture down here, because these rocks that I'm going to add into the scene are very textural. Let me see, this is these are paint pens right here. Acrylic paint pens. I know I recommend you get a set of these. I use them all the time. You don't have to get too many. I have a set of 3mm ones. I think this is gold right here. Sometimes I just... Yeah, it's gold. And maybe I'll use that one. But I have a set of 42 of these ones, and these ones are really fantastic. It's not like hundreds of dollars or anything like that. I think these pens are $1 or less or something like that. And they work forever. I haven't had one clog on me. The Artistro brand ones. Some other ones might be good. Some of them are almost even better than these in terms of pigment to binder ratio, which is pigment to water, because these are water-based. But I did have one that clogged on me, so if you don't use them, so they're super opaque. These ones are a little bit more watery. I mean, they're opaque enough, and they weren't great, but the other ones were really fantastic for really vibrant tones. But then I didn't use them for a while, and then it's like some of them that I already opened up, the tips were a little bit like caked over and dried paint, acrylic paint. You can get them kind of flowing again, but it really takes a little bit of work. So I really like this. This is, for me, it's the right balance here. Yeah, unless I'm using those other ones that are, very dense and whatnot. Like if I'm using those every other day or something like that, that would probably be fine. But I'm not, so this is like a great, I don't know, whatever, balance for me. Okay, so I'm adding some of this lighting into my area down here. It's supposed to represent like little shimmering little elements in here. Little reflective types of things, rocks, or could be, I don't know, some of that water or something like that down here. This one's, I'm using kind of a little bit more of a tan one right here. Because that doesn't stand out quite as much. The white might be good too. I might use that as well. Let's see these little ridges up here on this little rocky shore. In this case, it's kind of a side of a desert wash. You can use it for whatever. It's a new design. I really like it because it's real textural. It's on both sides here. See, I'm kind of adding in those highlights on these ridges, or I don't know, whatever, slopes right here. And that three-dimensional, it looks a little bit more three-dimensional. So when I add in my three-dimensional elements, hopefully they will kind of visually incorporate in with the scene easier than if the scene looked flatter. Okay, so I'm having these kind of rocks and things like that kind of look like they're reflecting some light in the scene by making them look a little bit more three-dimensional. And then we'll actually add in the three-dimensional elements. Okay. I'll go with that. And here, let's make it a little bit, as I'm kind of describing things, some things are coming to mind too. I think I'm going to make things a little bit even more dimensional by adding in some foreground in here. I was doing this a lot in my live video here, adding in some extra elements. I really like using this. This ocotillo right here is a perfect foreground, craggy little, or that's not like little, it's actually kind of big. This ocotillo bush. And I'll add in some more foreground in here, like that. We already have them going on in the background like that, but we'll have something here in the foreground like that. And then we'll incorporate our rocks in here. Or, I don't know, whatever. Gold, I guess, you know. It's supposed to represent gold. Okay, it stays on again. Again, there's this tarantula right down there. I don't want to... I kind of want them to kind of just blend in with the, you know, the terrain, you know, the texturing. But I don't want to just, like, bury it or, you know, something like that. Okay, just a little portion of it right here. Okay. And let's see here. I'm trying to decide if I want to give this ocotillo a little bit of a greenery, like some leaves are starting to sprout on it. These ocotillos come to life during the springtime with green foliage up and down the these limbs. I'm going to add a few on here. And again, this is like another little textural type of thing that I'm adding in here that might make them look a little bit more three-dimensional. You know, for the eventual usage of that three-dimensional glass. I'm kind of going with a fairly dark green here, just so it doesn't stand out too much. All right, so I don't know if you can see that right in there. All right, so I haven't used this glass in since I was experimenting with it a lot for about a week after I got it. I just started getting into you know, really working on my latest designs. So I wanted to really get back to this and play around with it a little bit more, or a lot more. Okay, so here's a gold pen right here. Let me add some of this gold in here with the paint pen as well before I add this in here. I mean, I can do it afterwards too, but I'm going to put a little gold in that miner's pan right there. And it's enough to pay for his dinner tonight. And I'll put some of these gold elements right in here. It's something, when you do these gold pen things, dots, elements into your pieces, if you're doing them over kind of a medium tone background, you can't even really see it because it just kind of blends in, but at the correct angle, you know, in certain lighting conditions, sometimes it stands out a little bit more. Let me see if we can see it here. I can see my green little dots. Okay, I see it right in here. So, yeah, I don't know if you can see it right there. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up. It's pretty subtle. Um, like right in here. I've got a bunch of gold, like right here. You see those dots right there? It's kind of obscure. I can see it more in person. There's some glitter right there. That's not it. Um, I don't know. Maybe we should use some glitter. I don't know. Okay, let's try some of these pieces right here. Okay, so the thing that I'm found with the usage of these little pieces like this is that you really have to find the right. Some of these are more dimensional. Like this glass right here, I think they designed it for. It's like those resin pours. You pour some resin, and then you sprinkle some of these flakes into it, and then you pour resin again. So it's like these suspended gold or whatever colored glass you utilize. Um, it's in that resin. I think that's the main way people are using this type of thing here. So what I'm getting at is some of these pieces are a little bit flatter than others, or a lot flatter than others. Some of them are, you know, more round. Okay, so I find that the flatter ones are probably better in terms of a visual. It looks like this for some reason this more orangish gold one right here. This one's just called gold. This one's called shallow gold right here. This one right here, it seems to be more dimensional. These ones have more flatter pieces in here. Just, I don't know, different batch maybe. Okay, now one of the things I did originally is I just kind of put a couple dots of glue down here, and then I poured the stuff right on top, and like I was doing like embossing or something like that, like embossing powders. But I don't think that worked so well because I couldn't control what flake landed on it. So it could be this like more pyramidal type of thing, it's sticking out of there and it didn't have the right shape. But kind of just sprinkling these out like this, you can just kind of add it in. I'm not going to add like 50 pieces in here or something like that. It's probably just going to be like, I don't know, 7 or 8 pieces. So you just take your jewel picker or whatever you use and just, drop them down individually. Okay, and it doesn't take too long to do. But I think I'll just add down here, like 2 or, we'll add on maybe like 4 dots of glue at a time. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go with 5 right here. You can't go with too many dots either at the same time because you kind of lose where you laid that down. Okay, so this again is the shallow gold color. If the tarantula was a person, they would be rich because it's right next to them. Okay, this one's like a really big chunk of gold, so I'm not going to use that one. Okay, I just lost that other dot of glue. Maybe that's the one I tried to use that other one on. Okay, I got 3 dots right there. I think I got some glue on my jewel picker. Okay. I have to kind of look at this at an angle to see if I have any other little raised dots of glue down here. Maybe I need to give myself a little bit of a larger dollop of glue, or just go 2 at a time. Maybe even like 3 at a time's too much. You kind of lose track of things. Okay, so here's a little bit more of the gold, just for a little bit of a different tone. These right here, you know, these little pieces like that. You don't see them; they don't stand out, I don't think, obtrusively, but that, I think, it looks pretty good right there. I mean, you could do it where if you find like a really small piece, you can put like larger pieces in here and smaller pieces up here as it kind of moves away in perspective too. Let's see, let's put like 2 pieces right here. I'm starting to add like larger little dots of glue. I think I didn't. It was a little bit shallow at first, or not shallow, but well, I guess, yeah, shallow. A little bit of a shallow drop of glue. It needs a little bit of a thicker one, I think. Okay, this one's sticking to my gem picker. I got like glue on my gem picker. This would be cool. You know, you can do, you know, like different colors of them down here too, I think. And I think that would be kind of interesting. We can do, like, I don't know, maybe not in this area, but you can do, like, if you had like a green or something like that, or aquamarine colored ones, you can have like different types of like semi-precious types of things. Well, I tell you, this miner right here, or this gold panner, he's just doing this for fun because there's gold everywhere. You know, they're already like super rich, I think. if if there's gold like that, unless this is like fool's gold or something. All right. I think that's it. I'll do a little assessment here. So we have this. We have that reference of a little gold miner right there. And you got this little twinkling little bits right in here. Let's do something here too. That gold does stand out quite a bit, which is good. I guess it's in there. You know, we don't want it to be so obscure you can't see it at all. But let's incorporate a little bit more. So after I see it down here, I'm going back to my gold pen, and I'll do these little bit of a larger little dot like that. I'll do about a little application of it in about the same size as some of these gold pieces, maybe a little bit smaller. I don't use this gold pen too often, so I got to get it flowing here. Yeah, I haven't used it. It's almost like getting it flowing from new, or maybe this is the one I was using here. It takes a few minutes to get them kind of, you know, actively flowing here. don't want to go too extreme with that gold pen, I don't think. Let me see here. I don't see that gold pen standing out too much. I can see where it is down here, those little gold touches like that. But anyways, see it seem like that? These gold pieces like this. I think that's pretty cool. And I'm going to spray seal this too. I think it helps to adhere these rocks on here a little bit more, or these whatever gold nuggets, slightly more. But then, for me, in my presentation of this, I would mail those out in those real clear envelopes, like this one right here. Okay, so I just throw it in one of these types of things, and just seal it off. So you'd have that gold on there like that, and it just protect it a little bit more. The recipient might take it out of there. But I would format this too on another piece, and that's what I'm going to do. This is like a 10-point piece of cardstock, and which is reasonably thick, but still this will look better when I add the final presentation to it. Let's add some white pigment ink to this. And thus make it a little bit more kind of textural again. I keep saying the same thing in this video, kind of like increasing textures, because this is very textural right here, these rocks like that. So the more kind of textural richness you incorporate into the scene from an overall standpoint, even if it's not the same texture, I think it just kind of incorporates these types of elements that really kind of stand out really strongly into the piece a little bit more. So any little thing that you do, it's just like one extra step. You don't have to do all of them, but the more you do, the more of these little rocks down here, the more the little tiny rocks that I was stamping in there, the black, and then I added in the white, or the acrylic paint pen work, and in terms of little highlights here and there, everything kind of just makes those the things that are really different, in terms of a three-dimensional, in this case, it just it visually integrates them more. Okay, so I'm adding in some of this white pigment ink in this background mountain, okay? Kind of like on the horizon, you see that kind of glow that's in here now? We have this lighting in the background. It's kind of obscuring some of that. We have a little bit of lighting right here because the blue is up here, but that little white area of white like that. And I'm just going to put a little bit of a more white in there and see it kind of knocks that, mountain back a little bit. Here's this little ocotillo here, and maybe I'm not necessarily like trying to add fog into the scene or something like that, but it's kind of adding a little element of some soft lighting into the scene. It just visually pushes some of these objects back in the distance a little bit more. And see, I can even add some of this down here. So, this little bit of this mist or something like that in here. I don't, you wouldn't see that too much out in the desert because it's too arid even at nighttime, but you do get some water out there. Now, as I see this, I mentioned maybe I'll use some of this white in here. I think I added some of this down here, and then when it dries a little bit more transparent. So I'm going to add a little bit more contrast in some of these areas right here, right along this bank, in the wash. Because that gold is really reflective, so I'm adding this little white in here. Not to match it, because white is not going to be as reflective as a metallic, okay? But you can see this right in here, my little slopes in here. All highlights in this wash are now white and kind of tan. White stands out a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, no, all this, you don't have to do all of this, okay? I'm just kind of experimenting too, because I've used this, these glass, tumbled glass pieces in like a cave situation. So I'm just kind of, I'm testing this for myself just to see, you know, if certain things integrate a little bit better, than what I've done in the past. It's not necessarily an extension, as much as like I'm kind of like, I don't know, whatever, answering a question that I had looking at those other pieces, if there's anything, kind of further we can do. All right, I think that is it. I need to format all my pieces into cards, but I think that looks pretty cool like that. See this? Little pieces. I mean, you can really see it where those glass shards are like that, where I've added them in here. Can you see these ones? I just had like two on this side because they're mostly right here. I didn't want to like, add too much. I guess you could in another situation. Like, I think when I'm doing like a shoreline, sometimes I'm thinking about adding like a ton of these ones in there, like next to my seaside cove sometime. Like those colors like that. Like in a black sand beach type of thing. But, and really making it super, I don't know, whatever, kind of almost like iridescent or something like that. But, yeah. So you can see where those are, but when you look at it just in normal lighting like this, you get these little twinkly little elements like that. I don't know. I think those look pretty good in there. See what you do when you look at something like this and you have these little elements down there like that, and you're doing this with it, and then you try to imagine it without that. And now that you see these kind of little flashy little glistening little bits of gold like that, it's almost like I don't know. I gotta have them in this scene now that I've seen it. Am I gonna do like these little types of elements in every river scene from now on? I don't know. Maybe not, but I don't know. I think that does add quite a bit. Even just kind of sitting here and looking at it like, just still like that. I think it kind of adds a little, quite a bit to the piece. So I can't wait to, I've shown this before, but I'll get it kind of matted off like this, with a little bit of white border and on gold. But if you want to kind of get the gist of it, I'll put this right here, and you can kind of see what, the presentation of this will be, with those gold pieces in there, and then you have this gold around here like that. Kind of bringing it in. I think that'll look pretty good. Okay, so anyway, a little experiment with this gold panner character on here, using the glass shards. And the dual colors, I think, look pretty good like that. I don't know if it'd be monotonous using just one. I went more dominant with this one. And then with this one, there's just like 2 or 3 pieces like that in there. But I don't know. I don't know, that's some pretty fun stuff again. Anytime you do a piece and if you start geeking out on it, you know what I mean? That's probably a pretty good sign. Ah, my camera, I wish I could zoom in a little bit closer, but my camera and the software, streaming software or recording software, it just, I don't know, it seems to do something to my camera where I can't zoom in as much anymore without it losing focus. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, about anything that was used or whatever, drop me a note in the comment section. If you like this video, hope you hit the like button. And if you like these videos in general, hope you decide to subscribe and hit the notification bell. So anytime I add a new one up, you'll get notified it, or when I jump in on a live stream, you'll get a notification of the live stream that's happening at that time.